Welcome to our spring episode. This is our second round of In the Kitchen. For those that are just tuning in for the first time with us, In the Kitchen the idea began out of our Celebrating You event that we do yearly. And we just wanted to continue to provide services for caregivers and the programs. And so why In the Kitchen? Because over the 12-year history of Hope Grows, we've heard caregivers time and time again tell us how important it is to have nutrition and how hard it is to keep nutrition in their diets. And we want to not only bring great ideas for caregivers to engage in quick meal prep, but also how do you alter that for the care receiver that you're helping. And then today's episode is really bringing in the horticulture part of who we are. If you're just new to who Hope Grows is, just having that connection to nature is therapeutic, and that's been a part of our mission since the beginning. So we're going to have a couple of people come into our space today, and that is Jess, our horticulturist, and our garden program facilitator, and she's going to talk a little bit about herbs, and then Barbie's going to come in and she's going to talk about how wonderful you can, herbs are one to have in your kitchen and to be able to cut and use in different simple recipes. And then after that, we're going to talk about respite today and the importance of taking care of yourself and taking a break. And I just want to introduce everybody to these wonderful guests that we have in our space today. And over here we have...
I'm Bethany Jaborowski.
Yes, and Bethany cares for twin boys. And you want to share what
Sure.
What the reason is you're caring for them?
Sure. My twin boys, they have MECP2 duplication syndrome. It's similar to Rett syndrome. It really affects every body system with seizures and feeding difficulties, nonverbal, but they understand everything. They're very sassy and fun too.
And cute as a button.
Oh, absolutely. But they require a lot of hands-on moving. They're not able to walk or crawl. So it's a lot of lifting and all of that. But there's a lot of caregiving that happens with it.
And we'll talk a little bit later. You're one of our caregivers that comes at least once a month here. So we'll be excited to hear about that. And here we have
Rachel Benson. I take care of my mother. She had a massive stroke in 2011, so it's been about 14 years. So she's paralysis on the left side and blind in the left eye. So she needs almost round-the-clock care. There's some breaks that we can do if she's safe. I have a camera, to make sure she's okay. So yeah.
Thank you both for being here. And we have two other guests that are here that have been caregivers and recently have lost the person that they're caring for. So, again, if you're just tuning into Hope Grows, we not just provide, care for the caregiver, but we also help those going through grief and bereavement as well. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Michael. I had left my career and moved back home to care for my mom. Cared for her as a sole caregiver for 12 years. She just recently passed in January. But I stayed here at Hope Grows. Thank God I found them. And it's been a real blessing.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And last but not least...
Hi, I'm Leslie Sundberg, and I was caring for my mother on and off for 16 years. Of course, the caregiving changed with more care needed. And my mother passed away in December, and I'm here for a grieving respite.
Yes,
not so much caregiving anymore.
Yes, and you're all the way from Oklahoma City.
I am.
Which I have to point that out because this is awesome all the way here to Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit more later about respite and the importance, like I said, but I'm going to introduce Jessica. She is our horticulturist and program facilitator. Welcome, Jess. Come on in.
Okay, so we're going to learn about herbs today. I'm going to introduce you to the herbs that we have potted, and then I'm going to show you how to pot up an herb from a nursery pot. So this is cilantro. A lot of cilantro is used in like Mexican dishes. This is mint, this is thyme, this is parsley, and this is basil. And they're all very fragrant, which is part of the wonderful thing about herbs. It's the fragrance. So they do need sun. So whenever you put herbs in a pot indoors, you're going to want to find a sunny window to put them in. You can put them in like a big planter if you want. Like this one is like a windowsill planter. Sometimes people use like large round planters if they want to have more than one. Today I'm just going to show you how to do one pot though. So they're fun. Herbs are great to have fun with. So there's two kinds of pots. There's the terracotta pot, and there is, we're gonna use the Hope Grows pot. And you all will get one of these to take home.
Oh, great.
So, and that's plastic. So most herbs, when you buy them at the nursery, are in like 3 or 4 inch pots. When you pot up, you want to go at least one size bigger to give it a little bit of room to grow.
Potting soil.
You're not going to need much, and they do sell this in a rather small bag. So pretty easy to get. And I just used, I don't think I even used like 1/4 of the bag with this. So not too much if you're just doing simple one pots. You're going to need to find a level surface. So if it's a nice day outside, you can go out and do it outside. Otherwise, I would put some sort of newspaper down, but something where it'll catch the dirt. Gloves. You're welcome to use gloves. I don't like to use gloves because I like to touch the dirt. And there's like therapeutic properties that you get from having your hands actually in the dirt. So that's my preference, but some people don't like that, so they opt for gloves, and these have like that waterproof latex, so then you won't get your hands wet or dirty. So this is what we're gonna pot today, the rosemary. I have a little bit of a root tip for you. When you are looking for herbs or any plants, it's really easy to just grab one and go. I would highly recommend you pinch the nursery pot and take a look at the roots, because a lot of times plants get overwatered in especially in the big box stores. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. They're busy, they need to get stuff watered, but sometimes if they've been watered and they've been sort of sitting in it too long, they're overwatered and the roots turn brown. And so you don't really want to take that plant home. This rosemary, now the rosemary roots are really thin, but you can see how the roots are white.
Yes.
Okay, so those are what you want. And then I actually brought a parsley so you can actually see that bright white. These roots are a little bigger. So don't be afraid to take the nursery pot off and look at the roots. It'll really help you when you're buying stuff. So the first thing you want to do is start with a thin layer of soil at the bottom of your pot. And then you kind of want to put your pot in and see how low it's going into your pot. So I just put too much in, so you can take that out. You don't want your plant to rise up above the edge of the pot. So you want like a little lip there, just to kind of make it easier when you're watering. So just keep doing that until you feel like you are satisfied with, a little bit, maybe 1/4 to 1/2 an inch at the top. And then gently squeeze and get your plant out before it falls apart. And then you kind of place it in there very gently, and you fill in all around. Now again, I like to use my hands. This is one of the best parts of planting. A lot of sensory activity, and encourage you all to interact with your herbs when you plant. Anytime. That's part of one of the best parts about potting up any plant really, but especially herbs. They are really, really fragrant, and you can like take off a leaf and kind of crush it up in your fingers and smell it. They beg you to be interacted with. So I would highly encourage you to take a moment while you're potting and just enjoy the herb, because they're really, really fragrant, and it's just an awesome plant to work with. So this guy, when I got him, was not that moist, right? So you kind of saw how it was like falling apart a little bit. So sometimes they've been watered, like this guy has been watered. That soil is moist. You can feel that, if you want. It's very moist. So you have to kind of be careful when you're dealing with a plant that's been watered, that you don't want to overwater it. So sometimes you can just kind of let that plant settle a little bit until, and let it dry a little bit, and then water it like the next day, because it's not going to die. But this guy, he does need water. So it's just something to be mindful of when you're potting. So I'm going to water them in a little bit. I'm a stickler for drain holes. You definitely want drainage in your pot, because that water needs to go through, and you don't want to overwater. The soil particles need like spaces around them, because the roots actually need oxygen. So it's very hard to bring a plant back from overwatering. When in doubt, let it dry out is the motto in horticulture. It's not as hard to bring it back from underwatering. This will go in a sunny window, all right? And then you check on it regularly, at least once a week. Use your finger, put it in. It may be dry on the surface, but not dry underneath the surface, in which case you want to wait a little bit. For harvesting, you can use scissors, you can use clippers, or you can use your fingers. Any one of those. Just make sure your hands are clean. Good rule of thumb, every one of these herbs is different, but a good rule of thumb is to harvest as close to the soil as you can. So I would just pinch that, and there's my parsley to use, because you don't really want like stalks kind of sticking up, and it helps the plant regenerate. With rosemary, oftentimes cut down to a node, because these get really bushy. So you can find a node. I don't think we actually have one with 2 stalks on it. And sometimes you'll have like a stalk coming out of this stalk, so you would come down and you'd find where it connects, and that's where you would cut. If you only need a very small amount, don't be afraid. You can take a couple from the top of the herb. The top is usually the better tasting part. The bottom usually has leaves that sometimes have gone a little bitter. So it's not every time, but that's where you're going to find your best taste. And that's only, like I said, if you need a small amount. Don't be afraid to cut them back if they get leggy or spindly, and then they'll regrow. That's a great thing about herbs. And again, this is another opportunity when you're harvesting to really interact with your herbs and enjoy the process. And you can enjoy your herbs anytime. You don't have to be cooking to enjoy them. So I encourage you to do that. Thank you, all of you.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that was wonderful. I loved having Jess come into that space to show us, just the small tips in how to look for a good plant, and then, pot it. So, hopefully, you'll be inspired today to go home and get some herbs and, get some planted and have a nice little kitchen garden. So, all right, well, we're moving on to the next part of our day here, and that is Barbie, our chef. She's our house and garden coordinator, our beekeeper, and also our chef for the overnight guests. And she does a wonderful high tea once a month here as well. And super excited to have people come to the house for that. In fact, one's coming up soon. It's always the 4th Sunday of the month. All right, welcome back. We are getting ready to have Barbie come into our space to talk about how to actually, take the herbs from the plants, cut them, use them in recipes. And I'm excited to have her join all of you in this. And Jess gave us a nice overview of how to look for a healthy plant and how to pot it and how to also cut from it. So I'm excited to have Barbie come back into our space. Come on in, Barbie. Good to see you today.
So I want to talk about why herbs are so important to keep in our diet. They're used to flavor food, but they're also chock full of health benefits. Too much of the same food can put our bodies in a metabolic rut that can lead to phytonutrient deficiency. And phytonutrient deficiency is a lack of plant-derived nutrients, and it's a result of limited variety of foods in our diets. Phytonutrients are natural chemicals that plants produce, and they're found in a variety of herbs, spices. They're actually in your coffee and your tea as well. So in the recommended daily intake of 9 to 13 different plants a day, your coffee and your tea actually contributes to that. So that's good news for us. Yes. I'm pretty sure the cacao bean might go in there with chocolate. I don't know. Let's
add it in.
don't fight it, right?
Yeah, it's vegetable.
Right, whatever variety we can keep in our diet is great. So herbs help us fight inflammation and they reduce damage to our body cells. And fresh is always the best, but dried is better than none. And there's a lot of different ways that we can incorporate herbs into our diet. So we just put some mint leaves and some lemon in some water and let it infuse. It doesn't have to sit for a very long time for it to become flavorful, and then you can kind of just keep adding water to it. Sometimes herbs can get a little bitter after they're kind of used too much. At that point, you just discard it and start a new one. But that's one great way to incorporate them. I will talk to you about how we destem these herbs. First, I have some herb scissors. I know Jess showed us a variety of different herb trimmers that we can use. So I will start with some basil, and I'm cutting it right at the nodes like she said. Now basil's a really delicate leaf, the same as mint, where we don't want to chop it a lot because it will start to bruise and get bitter. I like to pick them off of the stems, but I have these handy scissors here that also have a destemmer on the side. So you would just stick it through and pull it out, and it takes all the stems off. You might have a longer one you might want to trim, but it does a great job of that. And then these handy little scissors are a great way to involve somebody who might not be able to use a knife. These little scissors are meant for chopping herbs, and chives are a great one for this. So instead of chiffonading our basil with the knife, we can always roll it up and use these little scissors. And we get nice little even strips, and then we can just throw it in a salad like that. You can also just use whole leaves. And if you wanted to chiffonade this with your knife, we stack them all up, and then we kind of roll them. It doesn't have to be very tight. And then we just chop them thinly with our knife, just one time, and keep moving back. And then mint would be the same. You would treat mint the same way. So these are pretty similar. I think my knife's a little bit sharper than the scissors. You can see what I was talking about with the bruising. These are a little bit darker than the ones I did with my knife.
Okay.
Anytime you're chopping herbs on your cutting board, and if you see the cutting board starting to turn green, you're bruising your herbs and over chopping them.
Okay, good to know.
Which is fine. It's still good to eat your herbs, but that's a sign that your knife might be dull or it's time to stop chopping. But chopping, the only way you get good at it is by practice. So keep at it.
I can smell the.
Yes, it's
so
very
it's
fragrant
caramel.
here right now.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be using our herbs in a quinoa salad. And I'm going to look at some other ingredients we have here today to go into our quinoa salad. We have some garlic, we have tomatoes, lemon, and some parsley that I harvested earlier. Now parsley is one that you can use the whole stem. Thyme, sometimes you can also. This thyme is pretty thin stemmed, but once it gets a little bit more woody, you want to remove that. And unfortunately, there's not really a fast way to do it. Thyme takes time. I'm not sure if that's how it got its name, but it takes time. So our parsley, I'm just going to put in a little bundle. You also don't want to overload your ability to cut. If you have too big of a pile, that's more likely that you're going to bruise them by cutting it too much. You could leave the parsley leaves whole if you wanted to, but I like to incorporate the stems a little bit, so I'm going to chop it up. And I'm going to leave that a little bit bigger because I kind of want to give some body to this salad. I have some quinoa pre-made. There's a foolproof way of making quinoa where you can just have your quinoa in a container and you have your liquid. I'm using chicken stock today, but you get this to a boil or hot, heat it up in the microwave, put it over your quinoa, and then put the lid on it. And then come back to it in 20 minutes and it'll be perfectly cooked.
Nice.
That also works with like red lentils and some other grains you can swap that out with. Or if you're nervous about that, you can always use your rice cooker and you just dump it in and top it with your broth or water or vegetable stock. And it's supposed to be a 1 to 1.5 ratio. But an easy way to judge is just to kind of make sure it's covered a little bit. So there's a little bit more liquid than there is quinoa. Set this to cook. Some quinoa you'll see on your packaging. I have 2 different ones. They're both organic. This one says that it's washed and rinsed and ready to be cooked. This one warns you that you might want to wash it off and check for debris. Any grains might have some shells still in there. Quinoa actually has a chemical that makes it taste a little bit soapy, so that's why we rinse it off prior to consuming it. I will also chop up some tomatoes here.
I had a question. So with rinsing the quinoa,
Yes.
do you dry the quinoa afterwards, or is there anything special with the process of rinsing? Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, you're going to want to strain it out.
Mhm.
Use like a mesh strainer. And if you're going to cook it right away, I would just put it in your cooker or cover it with liquid or whatever method you're going to be using. But if you want to dry it out to use for later, I would put it on like a sheet tray or something to give it more airspace.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. I'll cut these tomatoes. I have another recipe that the folks here will be enjoying that uses a lot of herbs, and that's a green goddess salad dressing. So I have just a little bit of it left here. The rest of it's mixed with our chicken salad. But this is a really easy way to use your herbs. You barely have to destem them, and you mix it. This one has Greek yogurt and some buttermilk and lemon juice. And you just use an immersion blender. This one just connects like this. And you put it in your container, and you don't even have to chop your herbs. This does all the work for you. This also has an avocado in it. And with it being with the buttermilk and the lemon juice, it stays green for a very long time. So it's a great way to preserve your herbs and use up extra avocados that you buy. And it's great with chicken for chicken salad or normal salad dressing. And then we're just gonna mix this all together. This dish you could use as a side dish for fish if you wanted to make it hot. Today we're gonna have it cold with some chicken salad sandwiches. All fresh ingredients, very healthy. And we're just gonna mix it with some lemon juice and olive oil. I have some sauteed onions in there already. And then we can season it with salt and pepper as we like. And then this will stay good in our refrigerator for 5 to 8 days, I would say. And then that's dinner, or not dinner, but breakfast. Anything you want it to be. It can be a side dish. If you want to have it for breakfast, you can add a hard-boiled egg to it, and it's very versatile and just ready to go.
Thank you, Barbie. Oh my gosh, that was so informative. I learned some things that I did not know, and I am excited. I want to go buy one of these. So, all right, welcome back. We're reeling it in to end out our episode, our spring episode today. Those that are going to be watching this that aren't in person, the smell of the herbs in this kitchen is amazing right now. Loving it. But let's talk about respite. That's why one of our programs here is Therapeutic Respite, and the Iris Respite House for overnight stays is a part of that model. And I love that all of you have stayed here and have an experience to that and can share with our guests that are watching the importance of taking a break. I do want to point out that, as you all know, caregivers are just, they take on that responsibility and caring for that person. And you do it out of love. You do it out of empathy. You do it out of caring, right? But in that, though, you need a break now and then, right? You got to put that oxygen mask on. We always talk about that here at Hope Grows. And the sense of duty that you all feel is amazing, right? And I think a lot of caregivers experience that. I think you would all attest to that. That, just taking on that responsibility, it's just something that you do because of the love that you have for that person. But with that, though, right, there's that place of exhaustion. There's that place of just, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through the next day in this? And it's important. It's important to put that oxygen mask on. And that is one of the reasons why we created this overnight respite house, was for caregivers to be able to take a break away overnight, right, and put their head on a pillow and rest. or if it's walking in the gardens here, or if it's, you know, playing with our activity boxes that we have, or just sitting and staring out into the beautiful scenes from all the windows. I think you all know it's important to do that because you all have taken that step to do that, right? To take that breakaway overnight. I know, too, it's not easy. It's not easy to find that care replacement. And that is the hard part of this and I hope someday that our health insurance industry understands the importance of that and that we can pull those care replacement pieces in a little bit easier. So, but I want to talk about one thing before we move into asking some questions and getting this more of an interactive thing, conversation, is that taking a break sometimes can leave feelings of guilt. How can I take that step away, right? And knowing that my loved one's with somebody else, right? There's that feeling of guilt of taking care of self. We hear it time and time again, just like the piece of the nutrition that we've heard year after year here at Hope Grows, you know, the need for better nutrition, but also that guilt. That's one common thread that we have heard and seen throughout, you know, the course of Hope Grows in the history here. But I think the part of the guilt is it's understandable, right? It's you kind of do feel guilty. How can I go, you know, take a spa day or a day to rest or a day for me when my loved one is at home or with somebody else? But you know that there's importance in doing that, right? There's those benefits of taking a break, and that is, you know, the physical and emotional recharge that we can get, right? And it helps to maintain our current relationships that we have with people. It can also enhance our patience, right, and our empathy when we can take care of self, and it does prevent that awful word called burnout, right? And that's important. So, but if your feelings of guilt, and I just want to point it out for our listeners, if your feelings of guilt are to the point where you can't take that break away or take that break, even if it's just for half an hour, pick up the phone and give us a ring because we can help you through that. I know all of you have felt that guilt, but yet you took those breaks away. So you were able to get over that hump on your own, right? But we're here to help through that. So I'd love for the our guests that are watching to hear from all of you and how you felt about, you know, the importance of taking that break. Like, somebody want to start sharing, like how did you get to that place of being able to take that break away?
My therapist taught me about boundaries, and I was like, why boundaries for caregiving? That doesn't make sense to me. But I learned it. It's hard because with somebody with a stroke, they have a brain injury, so they don't understand the boundaries. So you have to just, you know, it's an every daily thing. But yeah, in the beginning, for sure, guilt. But then I learned that I have to take care of myself or I can't take care of her. So then when I started doing that and, you know, meal prepping, you know, eating healthier, I feel like, and then I was cooking her healthier meals. So I feel like it's yes. You know, this is the guilt, but once you start a pattern, it really starts working out. So.
Yeah, I love that word that you use, boundaries. You know, we teach a lot of how to maintain or how to implement and then maintain those boundaries. Yeah. And that is one of the things you have to do in order to be able to see that self-care is necessary, not just important,
and you
it's
still
necessary.
Love them.
Right.
They just have to, you know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's a learning process.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
That's important for our listeners to hear, I think. Yeah. Anybody else want to share?
I'd like to piggyback off Rachel's comment. It doesn't negate the love you have for someone you're caregiving for. I came to a point of complete, utter mental exhaustion, not so much physical. And I knew that caregiving was a marathon. It's not a quick sprint. And I just needed to get away so that I could help my mother deal with some really life-altering decisions as we were walking into the end of her life with hospice care. And so I just needed to get away, think through things, and have time to cry if I wanted to and not feel like I had to answer the door, answer the phone, you know, deal with, you know, neighbors, you know, asking me questions, and I didn't want to have to explain myself.
Yeah.
So it was really important for me to feel like I was in a safe place where I could cry or I could just read if I wanted to or take a nap. It was recharging for me.
Yeah.
So that I could help my mom through
Yeah.
the final
Yeah.
stages of her care.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good insight and good advice. Absolutely. Anybody else? I mean, you don't have to answer the question if you
I
don't
know,
want.
coming off
But
of that, there are times where life gets so fast with all the
Right.
caregiving, and especially with having 2 children that I'm taking care of. It can be very difficult where literally one is starting to go into seizures, and then the other one, we just had where one had the seizures and his oxygen started to drop, so then I'm trying to put his oxygen on, and then while that's happening, then the other boy started storming, which is like neurological, like jerks and things that are not, he can't control his body movements, and it's very painful. And then at that same time, then my son's oxygen failed. The oxygen concentrator mechanical failed. And then I'm trying to get him hooked onto a tank, oxygen tank, while the other child is trying to work through the storming and trying to get medication to help. And I'm by myself working on that.
Wow.
There are times when you literally have to dig in, but then that's when you need to figure out time too, after the storm goes through, so to speak, to be able to take your time and breathe. But if you don't take that time to take care of yourself before you hit those storms, you're not going to be able to handle the roller coaster of when there's multiple needs happening all at once. And so taking the breaks, finding time, even if it's only 5 minutes for me to sit and do a little bit of painting with my acrylics or my calligraphy or things like that, and doing the gardening, that's been really huge at our house. To even just take moments with my boys to stop and think, what plants do we want to plant this year, and think about the joy with it. But it's hard to find that time of balance, but even taking 5 minutes can help carry you through that next roller coaster that comes.
Yeah. That is one of the things we talk about here at Hope Grows, is trying to at least help somebody to take just 10 minutes, right? And maybe it's just 5 in this instance, right? And you've learned that that's important. So great insight, great advice for those that are listening in on this, and hopefully all of this is inspiring others to understand the importance of taking a break. Anybody else want to have anything to add?
Yeah, just a little thing I want to add too, Lisa, is the fact that there are many different negative emotions you deal with in the care of a caregiver, especially since it's a new role. And something I found that since I'd left my career and friends and environment is a little bit of resentment building that, and to prevent that from happening, I knew that like coming to a place where you can have respite, where you're taking care of yourself, will kind of bring those emotions and those feelings, those negative feelings back down again. So that was really important for me. It's just so important to take care of yourself. Then you can take care of the other one.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for that. That's great insight as well. I would love to be that person watching in on this, right? And seeing and hearing all this, to think, wow, if they could do it, I can too, right? Which is awesome.
It's funny, you were just mentioning, I think, about how, losing self, it's really important to be able to find ourselves again, even in the midst of the caregiving and even after. It's really important to find those hobbies and things that we like to do.
Yeah, you don't want to lose yourself.
Absolutely.
Correct.
And that happens a lot. I'm just going to put a little plug in that this summer we're going to be offering a class with a career hobby interest type assessment that goes with that. So for those that are listening, hopefully they'll be able to take part of it. I don't know if we'll be doing in person and virtual, but I would imagine both, but maybe not at the same time. So tune back in and find out when that class is, but it comes with an assessment piece that you can find out where is your identity anymore in this, and it's so important not losing that part of yourself. Great insight. So I know you all have been guests here at the Iris Respite House. So my question is, can you identify what was one of the best parts of staying overnight?
I don't have to do the dishes. I don't have to answer the phone, pay the bills. But on a more serious note, I loved the activity boxes that you have set up. There's a Zen garden box. There's a bird watching box. Different little activity boxes. And I really liked that because I experienced at caregiving just go. What's the next question that needs to be answered? And oftentimes, for my mother at end of life, it was very quick, serious decisions that needed to be made almost instantaneously. And with the activity boxes, for example, the Zen garden, I could just mindlessly flatten out the sand and then put decorative little designs in the sand and just take my time and mentally just kind of not really have to make any urgent decisions. It was nice. So
Awesome.
I liked the
Okay.
activity
Wonderful.
boxes. So.
Good, thank you.
For me, what really comes to mind really easily is that, so overall, it's a very holistic environment when you come here for respite. Just the quietness, the cleanliness, the peaceful, the hominess. There's even a nice little motion pool downstairs, which is helpful. But it was nice to be in like a home environment where a meal is provided for you. So you can go out to a restaurant and have a meal, you pay for it, but to be in your home environment and someone to care for you, that was just really just like brought me down to, you know, a peaceful level.
Yeah, that's I can understand that, right? Because you're the one providing all the care, and then to take that step back and let somebody else care for you for a little while.
Yes, exactly.
And
That's
to
what
have
I
a
hear.
nice warm meal.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's so nice.
Very delicious too. Yeah,
Very
professionally
delicious
prepared.
food.
too.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say definitely going to the pool, and then you have those really nice robes put on, and then yeah, definitely. Then I would recommend that.
Comfy.
Read a book, relax, got a really nice, great night's sleep, and then wake up to Barbie cooking you breakfast.
Yeah.
Yes, it's nice that you're like, and like I wanted to help her. You know what I mean? 'Cause, like,
We're helpers.
Yes,
That's what we do.
it was weird, you know, I didn't do, you know, but it was, it was
Yeah.
nice talking to her, and then, and the food was amazing. It was something I would never ate, and now I'm
Yeah.
like, how did you make that?
Yeah, right.
Right? Yeah. I couldn't do it again. I
Yeah.
definitely have to ask. But yeah, so, and then you leave really relaxed, and
Yeah.
definitely a drive home is nice. And chill.
It-
Then back to reality.
Yeah. That's. I would imagine that's probably the hard part, right? I would imagine stopping that caregiving to take that break,
Yeah.
and then going. But what I'm hearing though is a recharge,
Yes.
a
it was.
reset that
Yes.
happened.
It helps carry me through the next storm, through the next
Yeah,
challenging
yeah.
things to go, okay, I've had enough time to be able, well, not enough time, you never have enough time really, but to be able to have enough time to just reset, to restore, and to go, okay, now I can get back and get that energy back to my recipients,
Yeah.
to the people that I'm caring for.
Yeah. So Rachel, if I remember correctly, you had somebody here with you when you stayed,
Yes.
right? And you had met this caregiver at one of our events.
Yeah,
You both had
it
become
was
friends
the Botanical
through-
Gardens.
Yes,
Since we were
yes.
around the same age,
Yes.
everyone was a little older, and there's nothing wrong with that. But somebody dealing with the same thing, and unfortunately, her mom passed away. I think December or January, and so it was nice to see her again, talk and everything, and just if she ever needs somebody, I'm still here for her and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was nice. I definitely seemed like she was relaxed too, taking a break.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that very much. Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, the next thing I want to definitely do here is the hiking. We were in the winter, so I didn't get to do the hiking yet, but I'm definitely excited about that because I love the nature.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that out. We, up in this, we do have 11 healing gardens around the property, and we have trails in the back for walking. Yeah, I think I saw you a little bit
I was out
outside
there
in the
yesterday,
gardens.
yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
Last year I got to plant snapdragons.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So it was really,
That would be nice.
really nice to be able to spend a little bit of time with the gardening, digging into the dirt and things like that.
So what's one of your favorite moments of staying?
Oh goodness, there's been a lot of
Yeah.
different fun ones. I've enjoyed the therapeutic pool and just being able to sing. I sing in there with the acoustics are really great. The echo
Nice.
happens, and you're by yourself. It's nice and warm, and that's been really nice. I've even played the little piano down there. So that's been fun.
Yeah.
So, but I've also liked being able to sit over there, over on the balcony. There's a little chair with like a little poof so you can put your feet up and just listening to the birds, and it's just been really great. And
What if I recall the time you stayed? I think it was around Christmas maybe?
Yeah.
Before Christmas, we had the fire going.
Oh, that was
yeah,
amazing.
you were enjoying sitting
I had
on
my
the
weighted
couch.
blanket on,
Yeah.
and I was reading, and
Yeah.
you know,
I would have fell asleep.
Yeah, it was so relaxing. Just between the two fireplaces, I got to like kind of go between the two. It was just really great.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
So just one last question, and that is, if you were talking with another caregiver, what would you recommend to them to be able to take that sort of leap of faith and step away, right, to have an overnight break?
But don't be so hard on yourself that it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That the first time it's you're gonna be, you know, it's uneasy. Is that the word I'm looking for? But it eventually will get better once you start doing it. It's baby steps.
Yeah.
It's like the 5-10 minutes you need to yourself. Taking that walk, you know, but then going away for a night or something. Yes,
Yeah.
it's gonna be, but you'll then be like, okay, I really needed this. And yeah, so that's what I would tell someone.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else?
I said the first few times you're gonna feel a little weird about it because it's a different pace, it's a different look, and then you're going to be wanting to look at your phone and going, okay, are they okay? Are they okay? Like,
That's a
really,
good one, yes.
is it all right? You know, because it's different. You're so
Yeah.
used to doing the things, but it's really important to be able to step away for a little bit, and it does get easier with time to be able to take a little bit of time out. One of my therapists had recommended that, you know, so often we have our caregiving just takes up the whole box that we have. And it's not that we want to minimize the caregiving, but we want to kind of get that box a little bit bigger so we get life outside of that.
Yes.
So, and then finding a way to balance all of that and to take time for yourself. So then you can keep on pouring it out because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
Just trust that everything's going to be okay. It takes a little leap of faith, but it's like a small term investment that you make a little time for yourself, but the overall is when you go back, your relationship will be better, definitely. And I think a little too in my case, my mother, it took some of her guilt away because she felt guilty for me a little bit, sacrificing a lot, that for her to see a person get away and me get away, that she even felt better. So it really brought healing to the relationship. It builds up that healing part in the relationship.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And I'm glad that happened for both of you.
I'd like to use a buzzword, self-care,
Yeah.
not selfish. I think it's important that we take care of ourselves so that we can recharge, fill up that cup, because you can't offer something to somebody that isn't there within you. And so it's very important, 5 minutes. There are times I'd go to Walmart, I'd have a caregiver come if mom was having a really difficult time. We'd have a caregiver and I would say, I'm gonna go to Walmart for an hour. Call me or text me, I'm available by phone, but I just need to veg out. Or, you know, it could be any store, but
Sure.
a store that
Could be a
I knew
park,
would take me a
if
while.
the weather permits.
Right, to
Yeah,
get
something.
through. I've also just gone to parks and just sat there with a book for a while. It doesn't need to be a big expenditure or a big, 2-week-long trip. That's pretty unrealistic. But 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. And I do like the fact of trust plays into this. You set people in place to help caregive.
Yeah.
You need to trust them. You've done your due diligence in researching and asking for help and getting to know them. There's a comfort level, hopefully, with the caregiver and who they're caregiving for, and that's the time. Okay, everything is in place.
Yeah.
I can afford to do this for myself because it's self-care, not selfish.
Yeah, good points as well. Yeah, all of you, wonderful points in this. I do want to mention too about the team, right? Building your team. We talk a lot about that here at Hope Grows and how to build your care team around your needs and wants for yourself, right? And for those that are listening, if you that sounds foreign, right, and you're not sure how to do that team building, let us know. We can help with that. That's some of the things that we offer. And yeah, so thank you for bringing that part up as well.
Because you have to have your ABCs together.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Bethany's
Yeah.
writing a book.
nice.
It's called
Always be caring. It's
yeah,
about
always
the
be caring.
ABCs.
ABCs
So
of caregiving.
we oftentimes can advocate for our child, our family, our recipients, and then we have a lot of great resources for that. We have resources around for us to build our community.
Right,
But then we oftentimes forget the C, which is care for yourself.
right.
Right.
And you have to have all three, or that three-legged stool, if you forget to care for yourself, it's going to fall over.
Great analogy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you've got to have
that's
all
true.
three.
Yes.
But part of that is building that team together. So then you can take the time to step away, have people that you can trust to
Yeah.
be able to take care of your recipient in your stead, and then so then you can take care of yourself.
Good point.
to come back.
Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. Amazing advice, amazing tips to help somebody listening to this today to say, wow, they did it. I can, right? It's that train. I think I can, right? And again, Hope Grows is here to help implement that for you and to help you, get to that level of taking that step, right? I can't thank you all enough for being here, for taking part in our spring episode and in the kitchen, and I think now Barbie's going to come back and into the space and offer the food, right? And the herbs that she used in the cooking. I know that's the best part. It's all about that nutrition, right? All right. So again, thank you all, and just. Yeah, so blessed
Thank
that
you.
you're here
Thank
sharing.
you.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to invite Barbie back into the space, and she's going to serve the food that she was sharing and talking about earlier. And enjoy.
Thank you.
It looks delicious. It looks amazing. And yeah, I'll be back in a little bit. So enjoy, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is our quinoa salad.
Thank you.
And that used a lot of our herbs that we grew here. And then I also have an extra treat for you. This wasn't on the original plans, but everything worked out and I just had to share it.
All right.
So this is our Green Goddess chicken salad on a croissant. So that Green Goddess dressing used up a lot of our herbs also. And I don't know if anybody wants to count how many plant sources are in here today, but I think we hit a lot of our markers with this. And then if we want to check back on our quinoa that was cooking in the rice cooker, you can tell it's completely done. This is hot, but there's no water coming out of it, and it's all absorbed, and we can just fluff it up, and we can eat this hot if you wanted a hot lunch or a hot dinner. But I'll leave you to enjoy this cold lunch. Okay.
Thank you all for attending our spring episode. I was so excited to share about herbs today and the wonderful food that Barbie prepared and the information Jess had given about how to look for and plant, the best herbs. And our guests will go home with a potted plant like Jess has mentioned earlier. So super excited to give that to them so they can plant some wonderful herbs in their house. And then a teaser for the summer episode. We're going to be talking about aromatherapy and essential oils and how to incorporate that not only for yourself in breathing it and helping yourself emotionally and mentally with it, but also how to put that into some of the cooking that Barbie will share at that point. So again, thanks so much for being here and look forward to the next episode of In the Kitchen.